Hello! Today's story that I will be reading you is from my Curious George storybook. It's actually Ezra's. Written by Margaret and H.A. Ray. All of these Curious George stories are written by them. And since we're doing an Earth Day theme this week, the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle, we're going to be reading Curious George Plants a Tree. So this is a story about how Curious George learns about the earth and wants to help take care of it. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today was a good day to be curious. The man with the yellow hat was taking George to the Science Museum. The museum was one of George's favorite places. There were always new things to learn about and interesting things to see. Often, there was a special exhibit. George wanted to know what it was today, but first he had to make his favorite museum stops. The rocket room, the mirror room, and the butterfly space. Finally, George and his friend made it to the special exhibits room. The sign read, "How you can take care of our planet." That's cool. Look at all these things in the museum. George learned many things. How all people, animals, plants, air, and water on the planet make up the environment. How trees help keep the air clean. And how people can help protect the environment from pollution and too much trash. So we've been talking about this too, right? Ways to help the earth and take care of the earth and keep it clean. And that includes the air and the water. And trees are really good for the air. Did you know that? George had a great time and didn't get into any of his usual mischief. As he and his friend were leaving, they bumped into the museum director. That's a person that's in charge of the museum and what exhibits go up there. Dr. Lee, the museum director, looked happy to see him. "How is my best monkey visitor?" Dr. Lee asked George. "I'm so glad I ran into you. I wanted to tell you we're having a Green Day rally tomorrow at the park." So a Green Day is kind of like an Earth Day, a day where that people help take care of the earth and the environment, and it sounds like they're going to do fun things at the park to help keep it clean. George was curious. Whatever a rally was, he was sure that the park was a good place to do it. "We're going to plant a truckload of trees and collect used paper for recycling," Dr. Lee explained. "We didn't have much time to advertise, but we need lots of volunteers. How would you like to help out?" There was nothing that George liked better than to help. "What a great idea," the man agreed. "We'll be there." You all are helpers too, aren't you? Just like Curious George. That night, George was ready to do his part for the recycling drive. He gathered every newspaper in the house. He piled empty cardboard boxes and food cartons on top of that. He stacked old mail on top of that. What a heap! What more could he add? George scratched his head to think. Then he took several books off his bedroom shelf. What do you think he's going to do with those books? Do you think he's going to try to recycle them? They are paper, but usually books are something we keep or give to other people. Let's see what the man with the yellow hat has to say. Just as George was about to add them to his recycling pile, someone lifted the books out of his hands. "Not so fast, George," the man said. "These books are made of paper, all right, but you can read and enjoy them many times. And when you're done, you can donate them to other kids or to your library. Reusing is just as important as recycling. We learned about reusing too. That's one of our 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. So here, they're going to reuse the books. And they're going to, oh look, he's getting all the things to recycle. He recycled some newspaper by making it into a hat. Oh, it looks like they're going down the street now. The next morning, George and his friends set out to the park with a wagon of neatly stacked paper. Suddenly, the man stopped and said, "Oh, I forgot my gardening gloves. Go on without me, George. I'll be there soon." As George walked down the street, he spotted several newspapers lying about on his neighbor's front stoops. George had an idea. He had lots of room in his wagon. He could recycle all of those newspapers. Uh-oh, boys and girls. I think George is a little confused. These papers haven't even been read yet. They're the newspapers that are being delivered to the front door. Eventually they might be recycled, but probably not yet. And the newspapers were not the only things he could recycle. He noticed a stack of paper cups sitting on a table under a tree. Into the wagon they went. Oh, but it looks like this. These paper cups are supposed to be for a lemonade stand that's being set up. Uh-oh. So did a pile of magazines. And he sees those magazines, but really they should be at the magazine stand. And a heap of papers someone left on their sidewalk. That box says files. It looks like somebody's moving, and they're moving their files, and George is taking them to recycle them? Oh, no. Do you think those people are going to be happy or mad that George is taking their stuff to recycle? Let's see. George was happy with his load. At the park, he found Dr. Lee standing under a big banner. "Good morning, George," Dr. Lee said. "I'm so glad you came to help, and you brought all your friends. We need lots of help to get the job done." George turned around. He was surprised to see so many faces, but they did not look very helpful. They looked angry. Oh, so they were angry because George took their stuff. But did he mean to take their stuff? No, he was just trying to recycle. The man with the yellow hat had arrived just in time. He explained to the neighbors that George was gathering paper for a good cause. They were no longer mad. They even stayed to help plant the trees. Well, phew. They're not mad anymore. That George, always getting up to something. "George, you saved our green day," Dr. Lee said with a gratitude. Gratitude means she's thankful. "These trees will provide fresher air, and each summer we'll have more shade, which means we'll use less water to keep the grass green. Thank you." Being a monkey, George had known all along how important trees were. Very cool. So he helped plant trees and he helped recycle things. So there is the picture of George planting a tree. So it looks like that tree is small because trees grow to be big, but they start out small. So here are the steps for planting a tree. First, you dig a hole. Then you remove the burlap from the root ball. That's the roots that are going to go in the ground. And stand the tree in the hole. Step 3, fill in the dirt, tamping lightly as you go. So that means you tap the dirt with your shovel lightly. Step 4, put stakes around the tree. So those are like sticks, big sticks that are going to help keep the tree straight. And then you tie a ribbon around the sticks to help keep the tree up. And then you water it. And the last step is you put mulch. That's like a protecting thing. Kind of looks like little pieces of wood or bark. And you put that around the tree on the bottom to keep the roots protected. So that is how you plant a tree. There's lots of things you can do to help the earth, and that is one way that Curious George did.